Should you be making videos with your smartphone? The answer is yes, and in this video I'll give you some tips for making better smartphone videos. Hey, Evan here at Stabilization Media, coming at you with another video. Really think about it, the cameras on these things have come quite a long way. If you can think back to the days when smartphone cameras were like really blurry and really terrible, the newest generation of like iPhones and other Android phones, their cameras are pretty good. In fact, they're pretty comparable to modern mirrorless cameras. And while most mirrorless cameras have a lot of settings you gotta set, lenses you gotta pick, and all that kind of stuff, makes the setup a little bit more complicated. The benefit of smartphones is the fact you can just whip it out and hit record and go, and everything else is automatic and taken care of. But there's a little bit more to it than just whipping it out and hitting record, though. There's a couple other things you may want to pay attention to make sure your video is the best it can possibly be. The first thing to be aware of is lighting. Smartphone camera sensors are really tiny, so they need a lot of light for a good-looking image. That's why if you've ever tried to make a video or take a photo with your smartphone at night or in a dark room or something where there's just not a whole lot of light, it comes out really grainy and kind of blurry looking, and sometimes just not a good image. They work great for outside, but if you're in an inside space, make sure you get a lot of light to work with. Stand near a window. Bust out a ring light or any other kind of LED lights if you have them. You can use those to light your face. But if all you've got to work with is a window, stand as close to you as you can to that. Just make sure the window is not directly behind you, otherwise it'll just be a silhouette. Also, in the built-in camera app, you can set the exposure yourself. You just have to tap and then drag it up to raise the exposure or down to bring it down. And if you hold it all the way, you can lock the exposure and the focus. That way, wherever you are, if the lighting changes, like say you're by a window and it gets cloudy when it was sunny, the exposure won't change on the phone. Next thing is stabilization. If possible, invest in a smartphone tripod. They're pretty inexpensive. Like you can get some for like $10, maybe even less on Amazon. You can easily stick that on a desk or somewhere nearby, or even if you have the money, you can invest in a full-on tripod. Otherwise, if you don't have any of that, you can always just hold your phone. I know that might mean that your footage might be a little shaky, but stabilization in most smartphones is pretty good. Like it's built in. It's pretty comparable to a lot of modern mirrorless cameras, which have built-in stabilization. And if you do plan on holding it, make sure you're holding it out at arm's length. That's the best distance for holding a phone. Most smartphones nowadays have the option where you can change the resolution on your video capturing. 1080 is still pretty standard nowadays, but I think most modern smartphones allow you to do 4K. I know the iPhones do. I'm not really a big Android user, so I'm not really sure. I assume they let you do 4K recording. Now, to the naked eye, 1080 and 4K, there isn't really a huge difference between the two. There is a little bit more quality, a little bit more detail in 4K, and it does mean larger file sizes. The benefit, though, of 4K is it will allow you to zoom in more and without losing any detail in the image, which, pro tip, something you might want to do when you're editing it is punch in and punch out, zoom in, zoom out, make you look like you have multiple cameras that you're using for filming. It's a neat little trick to add a little bit more visual variety to your video. Point is, 4K is a little bit more flexible. If you have the space on your phone, definitely use that. That way it'll give you a little bit more wiggle room when you're editing it. Pay attention to what background you've got going on behind you. Ideally, like a blank wall is best, or something where there's just not a whole lot going on. If you're standing in a room and we can see tons of junk and stuff everywhere, it might be a little distracting, especially since with smartphones, since their sensors are so small, they often make the whole image completely in focus, as opposed to how mirrorless cameras with the right lens can often do. The subject is in focus, but the background is blurred. You know, that cinematic look that people often like. Next to impossible to get that on a smartphone, unless you've got lots of fancy gear to make it work. It doesn't have to be perfect, because honestly, the content is what matters. Nobody really cares about your background. Just make sure it's not too distracting. Pick a different room that's maybe more cleaner, a wall, whatever you've got. Standing in front of a door, if that's all you've got, that works too. And lastly is audio. Now, the microphones on smartphones these days are actually really good. Better than you might think. So if you plan on using the microphone in your phone, again, I said this earlier, but make sure it's about an arm's distance away and no more than that. That'll allow the microphone to pick up your voice the best and make it sound the most clear. Otherwise, if it's any farther than that, your voice will start to sound far away and just not as good. Now, there are a little bit better mics that you can invest in. They'll allow you to plug it into your phone, and you'll be able to use that as the audio source for your videos if you're filming on your phone. These can run you from about $50 to $100 depending on the type. That would be something to look into if you're concerned about audio quality, which, by the way, is the most important thing when it comes to making videos. People will forgive poor video quality, but they won't forgive bad audio quality. So if nothing else, make sure you invest in a good mic. That's true of whether you have a smartphone that you're filming with or even just a regular dedicated camera. All right, there you go. There's a couple of quick tips for filming better smartphone videos. These tips will help you get started right away, stuff that you can probably do right now on your phone. Are you using your smartphone to make videos for your business? If so, what model are you using? And how's it working out for you? Drop a comment below and let me know, because I'm curious. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video has helped make your video marketing frustration free. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments, as I may make a future video answering your video marketing related question. This is Evan with Stabilization Media, and I'll catch you next time.